Climate change. How is another global moral issue made worse by global climate change? I'm focusing on how forced migration is made worse by global climate change. It is people who are now children and people who are not yet born who will reap most of the benefits of any project that mitigates the effects of global warming. We'll be focusing on climate change, what's going on, what it is, what causes climate change, what's migration, and then how migration is made worse by climate change, specifically how forced migration works. Climate change. What's going on? What is it? What's happening? This is the definition of climate change as given by National Geographic. Climate change is the long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns in a place. Climate change could refer to a particular location or the planet as a whole. Climate change may cause weather patterns to be less predictable, and climate change has been connected to other damaging weather events, such as more frequent and more intense hurricanes, floods, downpours, and winter storms. What are the causes of climate change? Climate change starts with fossil fuels. We burn fossil fuels, or we burn coal, natural gas, and oil and such, and that creates greenhouse gas emissions. These greenhouse gases get trapped in the atmosphere, they trap heat, and they make the planet warmer. According to the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, since 1990, the gross U.S. greenhouse gas emissions have increased by 2%. Also according to the EPA, gases with a higher GWP, or also known as global warming potential, or GWP, they absorb more energy and thus contribute more to a warming Earth. And why is climate change important? Because left unchecked, or by doing too little too late, climate change will haunt future generations and leave a despoiled Earth as our legacy. Due to climate change, we'll also see geographical expansions of diseases, food insecurity, social unrest, resource wars, climate refugees, and billion-dollar climate disasters. It'll all be a huge cost to human life and suffering. Migration. What is migration? It is defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary as a seasonal movement of animals from one region to another, or the movement of people to a new area or country in order to find work or better living conditions. Migration can be a normal and even historical event. There are plenty of animal migration examples, such as the monarch butterfly or salmon or blue whale. There are famous human migrations, such as during the industrialization period or the partition of India, or more recently in the last decade, the separation of Sudan and South Sudan. Migrations are normal, but then there are certain events such as climate change or famine or flood or drought that can cause a huge migration of people. And what is the effect of these huge migrations, of these forced migrations, and why is it important? As stated by Kibrib, some of the effects of climate change relevant to the issues examined in this article, as stipulated by the IPCC 2007 report, are that climate change is likely to lead to an increased sudden onset disasters, such as floods and storms, to frequent occurrences of droughts and severe water shortages, and increased sea level rise. So we already know that climate change can create huge disasters, and these huge disasters can cause forced migration of people, and these people don't want to leave, but they have to because they want to live and they want to have a good future for themselves and their family and their future generations. As the IPCC noted in 1990, the greatest single impact of climate change could be on human migration, with millions of people displaced by shoreline erosion, coastal flooding, and agricultural disruption. We already know that migration is a normal thing and it happens time to time, but because of the increase in climate change and the increase of sudden and even violent storms or weather, that just increases the amount of people who have to migrate. But migration is just an extreme form of adaptation, as noted by Atapatu. Sometimes it's the only option available to migrate. However, migration for these environmental refugees is not always very easy. As noted in the article by Jackie Swift, where she quotes Garcia, climate refugees do not fall under the current definition of refugee. The term refugee is defined very precisely in international law. In U.S. law, for example, refugees are defined as individuals persecuted because of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular group, or political opinion. It doesn't say climate anywhere in there, so this leaves an entire group of people without international protection or recognition. This, of course, leaves a whole group of people that have nowhere to go and don't have any guaranteed stability or a place to stay. So the people who suffer most from climate change are the people who probably had the least to do with climate change. The people who have the most responsibility in larger nations, or people who are 1%, the elite of the wealth, are most likely to do the most damage but suffer the fewest consequences. And they don't have any incentive to act for the good of the public or the planet. Companies such as Citgo or Exxon have more incentive to keep polluting to gain a profit rather than try to move towards more green energy formats. Already in the past decade, we've seen several oil spills, such as the Deepwater Horizon oil spill back in 2010, or more recently, the gas leak in Mexico. Here is a list of sources that were not given on Brightspace, and they're also included probably at the corner of the slide in which they were quoted. And here is a slide of the credits for the template I have used for this project. Thank you.